Joe McDoakes, the inveterate smoker, the man who simply has to have a cigarette. Look him over. Is he nervous? Run down? Not necessarily, but deprive Mr. McDoakes of civilization's most popular addiction, the cigarette, and we have a different man, as you shall see. Oh, sweet dreams of nicotine, how you satisfy. What would he do without his 3 packs a day? And that is exactly what Joe is thinking. Seems a guy could quit if he just sat down and made up his mind about it. Sounds easy, doesn't it, Joe? But suppose as you looked around the room a moment ago for a smoke, you find things different. The desire for a soothing cigarette gets acute, and you become more impatient each second. You're positive you had a pack somewhere in this suit. You've got everything else, but you're forgetting that last handout to the moocher down the hall. Now, where did you put those cigarettes? There must be a pack somewhere in the house. Here, Joe, the ashtray. It's small pickings, but the way you feel, you'd smoke the leather off your shoes. No time now to think of quitting cigarettes. No, sir. Ouch! So you want to give up smoking, do you? I wonder if you could take it. For smoking is the minor vice and most universal occupation of 62 million Americans. Almost 70% of the men and 30% of the women are today constant smokers, with it increasing every year. The average smoker, sooner or later, feels the urge to break free from the vice-like grip of tobacco. If he is among the first 50% of the nation's smokers, he tries valiantly to stop, but he doesn't know how. His self-control has been perilously undermined by a mere mechanism of habit. Struggling courageously with his inner self, Joe by now has determinedly made up his mind. He will rule supreme over this vicious addiction and will spare no expense, hence the dollar bill attached neatly to the coupon. Joe is answering this ad because he is looking for an easy way out, and the sure cure for smoking racket claims another victim. What Joe doesn't know is that he's bitten off a mighty big assignment for himself, that the odds are 4 to 1 that he won't be able to give up the tobacco habit. For the habit of smoking is only a familiar instance in the psychology of forming and breaking of all habits. In a recent survey among both men and women, these facts were uncovered. Of 1,000 constant smokers, 147 had given it up, but only temporarily. 280 kept continually trying to cut down, but with little success, while a scant 145 actually achieved the goal. Of the remaining 428, most of them didn't give a hang whether they smoked or not, so went right on smoking. But those successful in eliminating the urge for tobacco claimed they did it by one of 3 methods. The first and most common is the abrupt method, to give up smoking at once and completely with no concessions. The second method relies on substitutes and is appropriately called the substitution method. In other words, instead of cigarettes, use such non-inflammable confections as candy bars or chewing gum, or even what Joe is doing, taking his candy in cigarette form so he won't be lonesome. The third method is the well-known one of cutting down on cigarettes gradually, better known as the gradual method. Joe started out this morning by filling his package with just 6 cigarettes and is now nearing the end of his daily quota. With his nervous system threatening open revolt, Joe pacifies his emotional craving for nicotine, but not for long, for his senses of taste and smell continue to be aggravated with periodic doses of tobacco. Going through the strictest of self-disciplinary routines, Joe has become the most trifling of misers, counting each puff and puffing each smoke down to the last bit of precious tobacco. Still a victim of a chain of mechanisms, Joe McDoakes is far from free, and we still wonder if he can take it. When asked if he'd like to sit in the smoking section, Joe comes forth with the correct answer, and is promptly ushered to a section of the theater where he will be free from temptation. Joe, by this time, realizes that the best way to stop smoking is to stay away from cigarettes and those who smoke them. silly. It's only a moving picture. Control yourself. There, that's better. Now forget about it and enjoy the movie. What's this? Must be an air raid. Quick, Hawthorne, the gas masks. Oh, so that's it. Mutiny. And after all your fine work. I knew you couldn't take it. The habit's got you down and intends to keep you down. Well, I hope the usherette comes along and catches you two guys smoking. And that, my friend, serves you right. There is still one way out of this predicament, Joe, and it goes right back to what we've been telling you about habits. Now, come over here. Don't be so stubborn, and we'll show you what it's all about. The strength of the smoking habit lies in the neuromuscular chain of acts, which is easily set off. When not in motion, the chain sets up a craving until started. And when started, it has to go on to the end. Hey, you! Are you listening to this? Well, all right, that's better. In order to break the habit, you have to break the chain or interrupt the routine. Now, reach for a cigarette. That's all right, go ahead. Instead of lighting it immediately, set it down again and wait. After waiting a few minutes, pick it up and light it. But don't take a drag. Just set it down on the ashtray again. Now, take the ashtray to that table across the room. That's right. If you were planning to stay in tonight and read, set your ashtray just far enough from you so that every time you need a drag, you have to walk across the room to get it. Simple? Sounds easy. Or does it? Now, go to the mantel with the remainder of your cigarettes and ration them out for the evening. If you decide on 3 between now and midnight as a starter, lay them out and ditch the rest. Go on. Throw them away. Every time you want a cigarette, you now must walk to the mantel to get one. Known as the interruption method, it breaks a monotonous series of automatic activities into single, unusual acts, each of which serves as a warning signal to the mind. Discouraging, isn't it? However, psychologists agree there is no single formula to cover every situation. For look at the type of cigarette smokers. The chain smoker, who lights one from the other in rapid succession. The enthusiastic conversationalist. Look out, you'll blow the fire out. The herd instinct type, who smokes whether she enjoys it or not, because the other ladies are doing it. The bored society type, and a good way to smoke incognito. The Statue of Liberty smoker, or a quick way to put the waiter's eye out. The busy shop girl type, much too busy to do just one thing at a time. The French inhale, or a good way to take in twice as much nicotine. And the Scotch inhale, to make one cigarette do the work of 2. And an excellent way to pass the time. But if giving up cigarettes by the methods shown in this picture comes a little hard for you, here is how to reduce the nicotine and still enjoy your cigarette. In lighting, hold the flame to the cigarette the minimum time necessary. When you take a puff, make it a gentle one. And after the inhale, hold the cigarette with the lighted end higher. Then take as few puffs as possible and extinguish the cigarette before it is half through. In this way, the harm of nicotine can be held to a minimum. Let's go back and see how our hero is making out with his total or partial abstinence. The package he sent for earlier has arrived, and Joe can hardly wait to see what's inside. The directions say to take 1 pill after each meal, and the craving for cigarettes will forever pass. So Joe, finding the pellets pleasantly palatable, decides to hurry things up by taking all 3 pills after 1 meal. This, of course, absolves us from all responsibility. Joe is now most definitely on his own. At last, Joe is a free man, an escaped convict from the torment and discomfort of his neuromuscular activity. For Joe no longer craves a cigarette. Turn around, Joe, so we can see what it looks like to be a saved man. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is where I came in.